Okay, so today is June 27th, 2020. What is your full name?
Dennis Landrus.
And when is your birthday? When were you born?
8749.
I was born on 8/7. That's my birthday. I was born in 82. It's meant to be. That's awesome. And where were you born? Where were you born?
February.
Fairbury. Okay. I had family in Cropsey.
You where?
Like Cropsey. The Camerons. Jake Cameron, who was also in Vietnam, was my uncle.
We got to go to Cropsey someday.
We should.
I think I have a sister buried over there.
Yeah. Okay, so you were born in Fairbury, and what was, did you have siblings? What was your childhood like in Fairbury?
Pardon me?
Did you have siblings? Like, did you grow up with brothers and sisters? And what was your childhood like in Fairbury?
I lived in Chenoa all my life.
You did, so you moved to Chenoa later?
Yeah, I was just born there. That was
okay.
it.
And then, so you grew up in Chenoa. Did you go to high school in Chenoa?
Yes.
And what year did you graduate high school?
All the way.
All the way. Do you remember what year?
68.
68. Okay, so you pretty much graduated high school at the peak year of American troops in Vietnam. So
Did I what?
you graduated high school in 68, which would have been the peak year that there were troops in Vietnam. We had the highest amount of troops in Vietnam in 1968.
Oh, no, 500,000,
Yeah. So in 1968, when you graduated high school, did you go into the military right after high school? Tell me about how you got into the military.
I took a year off. I went in 69.
Okay. And did you join voluntarily or were you drafted?
Enlisted.
You enlisted. And what branch did you enlist in?
Army.
Army. And so you joined in 1969, and where did you do basic training?
Leonard Wood.
Leonard Wood. And after basic training, where did you go after that?
AIT, Leonard Wood.
Okay. And then after AIT, where did you go?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. So do you remember the month that you were deployed into Vietnam?
Huh?
Do you remember the month and year that you were deployed? I'm going to make you think.
Yeah, January.
January 1970?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember where you arrived in Vietnam? Where did you arrive in country?
Saigon.
Saigon. And what was your very first impression of Vietnam when you got there?
It's hot.
A little humid, maybe?
Huh?
Hot and humid?
No.
No?
Actually, it was just hot.
Hot.
You didn't hit the humidity until you went in the jungle.
Okay.
Then it's hot.
And what was Saigon like as a city? Did you ever spend any time in the city?
No.
No?
Just the airport.
Just the airport.
Then they send us to what they call the 90th Replacement Center.
Okay.
You go there and then you go wherever.
So you will go to the replacement center, and do you remember where you went after that? Where they sent you after that?
Place called Tan An.
All right. And so tell me about that. Tell me about what it was like being there, your experiences, anything that stands out to you about that.
Actually, it was just a job.
Okay.
I was a wheel mechanic.
All right.
But I started volunteering for jobs, which you ain't supposed to do, but I did it anyway, to get off the post so I could see the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing I did was we went around and changed gun tubes, 175 and 8-inch holsters. So did that for about a month or so. And then the 9th Infantry Division pulled out, so I got sent to Long Bed. And I was at the 185th Maintenance Battalion. And same thing there, volunteered for jobs. But this one cost me though, this is where I ran into Agent Orange. Because I went, the day I went, they had just sprayed a mile white path, which I had to go through to get to it, what's called a roam pile operation. And what they were doing was knocking stumps over and burning them to get a kill zone. if you don't believe this, but they sprayed it at 6 o'clock in the morning. I went through at night, and trees are dying then. But you got to remember, it's a non-toxic weed spray. Yeah.
So at that time, as a soldier, did they tell you anything about Agent Orange as far as
Yeah, it's a non-toxic.
that's
weed.
non-toxic, that this is not going to hurt you?
And if it bothers you, it'll be 30, 40 years down the road.
So when did you start feeling the
It
effects
caught
of
me
it?
at 33.
At 33. And so about, let's see, so I'm just doing math in my head here. Math is 33. So about 10 years after you left Vietnam?
33.
33. Oh. So about
33 years.
Oh, 33 years. I thought you meant 30. You were 33. So you were exposed to Agent Orange, and did you think anything of it during the war that you were exposed? What type of symptoms did you start having that you started to realize you were having issues with Agent Orange 33 years later?
What symptoms did I have?
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost my hearing in the ear overnight. So we went to an ear specialist. This is the funny part about this. We went to an ear specialist in Bloomington. Oh, that's old age. Overnight, I lost my ear. Then, what was it, a couple months later? My eye. I couldn't close my eye. We went to Gailey's in Bloomington. You got dry eye. Yeah, okay. Why do I have dry eye? No, that was his excuse. Then my lips started jerking, so she called the doctor, and we went that night, didn't we? For a MRI, and that's when they found the tumor. It's skull-based tumor. Got a big old scar here. So my life's been from it.
So let's go back to Vietnam, back after you're exposed to Agent Orange. Did you ever have close contact with any South Vietnamese soldiers?
Hey, what?
Did you ever work closely with any South Vietnamese soldiers? From the South Vietnamese army?
We were around them, but we never worked with them.
Did you ever have any impression of them as soldiers? What was your impression of them as soldiers? Or did you even have an impression if you didn't spend any time with them?
They were just soldiers. I wasn't that much around them.
Okay. Did you ever have contact or experience any contact with Vietnamese civilians?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What was your impression of Vietnamese civilians?
They were just ordinary people.
Yeah.
We had mama sons come in and do our clothes and stuff.
Describe for me what a typical day would have been like for you in Vietnam.
Typical day.
A typical day.
You had formation in the morning. Then you went to your job. And then they'd load you up in trucks and take you back to the company for lunch, and then they'd come back in the afternoon until you were done. And then the evening was yours. That's about it.
Okay. What do you think was the most dangerous part about your job?
About my job?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just a regular job.
Okay. Fair enough. Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences in Vietnam. What stands out to you when you think about Vietnam in your memories?
Outside the Agent Orange,
Yes.
when I was changing gun tubes, it was kind of a warm night, so I crawled up on my truck. because they had canvas tops. I crawled up there and lay down, went to sleep. And there was a 1752 above the truck. Well, 2 o'clock in the morning, that sucker went off. I woke up on the ground. And then they had us at a stretcher deal. We go in and put your projection rounds on them, and you run them up to the gun, and it was like a hydraulic took over. You get the stretcher back, and then you go back, you get another projection round. Well, there was like 3 or 4 of us groups running that projection round up there. That lasted about a couple hours. So that would be about 4 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock in the morning, it was our turn to get overrun. And the Cobras came in, so that took care of the battle. Thank God.
So you're in Vietnam during 1970. What type of, would you get any news back home about what's going on with the anti-war movement or protests or anything like that? Would you get any of that information about what's going on at home?
Oh yeah, we heard about it.
What were your thoughts about that?
It just ain't much to talk about.
Yeah. What did your other soldiers in your unit think about that? Was it something you guys thought about or talked about people protesting while you were already in the country and fighting in this war?
Well, newspaper people weren't very highly thought of at all.
And why is that?
Well, because a lot of them take pictures of stuff that didn't need to take pictures of. And they take it home and show it around and say, hey, see what our guys are doing? Because when I come home, we was at Oakland, and this guy walks up and says, baby killer. Just out of the clear blue sky. He had no idea what's going on. Except for what the newspaper and stuff tells him. He comes up with a dirty stunt like that. Oh well.
Let me get to my next question. As the war, so when you go to Vietnam in 1970, did you feel that your thoughts on the war changed in the year that you were there at all? Did your opinions change as you were in Vietnam for that year?
No, it didn't change.
Okay. So you were there in 1970. Do you remember when the invasion of Cambodia occurred?
Cambodia?
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, okay. Any thoughts on that you'd like to share? What did you think about that?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, I was in Cambodia.
Okay.
We went to this one base camp at Arby. It was about 3 miles in Cambodia. Then another 3 miles there was another camp. So the Arby camp that I was at, they take care of the other camp inside Cambodia.
What were your main objectives while you were in Cambodia?
Huh?
What were your main objectives for your unit while you were in Cambodia?
What?
Like your main objectives. What were you doing in Cambodia?
I went there to change gun tubes. That's all I was there for.
When you were there, did you see any North Vietnamese or any VC?
No. You see the village people, but they could be VC, you don't know.
Yeah. Did you find that to be a problem as an American soldier, trying to distinguish if someone
No,
was...
they knew the difference. You learn real quick.
Okay.
Who's who?
So how long were you in Cambodia?
Huh?
Do you remember how long you were in Cambodia for?
Just a day.
Okay. So during your time in Vietnam, did you ever have an time to have R&R?
No.
No. And how long were you in Vietnam? So you get there in January of 1970.
18 months.
18 months. So after your first year, did you extend for 6 months?
After the first year, I did.
Did you do that voluntarily? Did they ask you to go back?
No, they didn't ask, but I volunteered.
Okay. What were your thoughts on communism at that time? What did you think about the American involvement within Vietnam? Is it something you agreed with?
Communist has to be stopped, so that's what I was there for.
Yeah. What so when you were, let me backtrack a bit. So even before you went to Vietnam, and let's say when you were in high school, did you hear a lot about Vietnam growing up as a country, about communism or
Did
anything
we
like
learn
that?
about it?
Yeah.
No.
Like just about it as a country, that there was communism spreading and this was one of the countries.
Oh, yeah, you read in the newspaper about it. Like communists took over China.
Mm-hmm.
And Vietnam was next. So.
Okay. So.
But you didn't learn a lot though, because they don't tell you that.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on, so you grew up in the 60s and you served in Vietnam in 1970. What were your thoughts on how Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon each ran the war?
I didn't see anything wrong.
No.
Nixon.
That's a whole other story with Nixon. So do you recall the day that your service ended? Do you remember your last day in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Were you excited to go home? Were you sad, happy?
Yeah, I was getting out of there.
Going back home. So when you left Vietnam, where did you go first? Where did you come back into the country through? San Francisco?
I came home first.
Came home?
Then we had to load up and go to Fort Sill. Didn't we, honey?
Yes.
So when you did get home, so you said earlier that there was somebody that had called you a baby killer. Did you experience any other instances of people kind of discriminating against you because you had fought in Vietnam?
No. I didn't. Everything was. We didn't run into any people that didn't like it or anything.
Good. So you pack up, you go to Fort Sill with your wife after you get back, and what was your military career after that? What did you do for the Army after that? Like how long did you stay in the Army? And
We was there, 6 months? Yeah, 6 months, then I got out.
you got out. What did you do after the Army?
Huh?
What did you do after the Army, after your service was over?
Came back here. I got a job at Saberts and Son.
What was that? What type of company is that?
Tool and die.
Okay.
Yeah, but I only worked there a few months and quit. They told me I had to buy $300 worth of tools, and I said, no, I don't. Because it took me 2 weeks to make $300. So I don't think so.
What did you do after that?
Went to a place called Landrus.
And what does that do?
It's a steel factory. They make a industrial rack. So I did that for about 31 years
Okay.
until Agent Orange caught up with me.
So let's go back to that. So what is your thoughts on how the American government has taken care of veterans
How
after.
what?
What is your thought on how the American government has taken care of Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange issues?
Yeah. There was what these guys called the ranch hands. They were the guys that actually loaded the Agent Orange onto planes to be sprayed. And the government was like bragging about them because they don't have cancer. There's nothing wrong with them. They did that for about 30 years. Then all of a sudden they started dropping like flies because they caught up with them. And so they eventually started helping us.
That's good. Do you feel that there have been reports of people that have been exposed to Agent Orange that see effects in their children as well? Did you feel that any?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It affects the Vietnamese too.
Mm-hmm.
But they do nothing for them.
How do you think that your military experience in Vietnam has influenced your life outside of Agent Orange, but has it impacted the way you look at other wars and other military conflicts, or just your worldview at all?
You see people as they are. I had a black guy, when I got to Nam, he says, I'll take you under my wing and show you everything, what to do and what to look for. And he says, but don't ever ask me why. And said the first thing we're going to do is go down to the village and get our clothes tailored. You don't ask. So we did that, and you find out later that when you're running through the jungle, if you got baggy clothes, it hangs up on the rush, or if it's tight, it'll just rip it, and it might rip your skin, but you're still moving. So stuff like that. Hang a knife upside down, right here. So when you're crawling, you got the knife. You don't want to roll over and get it off your side. You want it now. Stuff like that. He taught me. And
what was his name? Do you remember his name?
and taught me about people.
Yeah.
You gotta listen to people talk, and that usually tell you what is what. Do you want them on your back side, or do you want them on your front side? And you're pretty right about everything. That was interesting.
Were there soldiers that you served with that you didn't trust?
Huh?
Were there soldiers that you served with that you wouldn't have trusted in battle?
You know what now?
Like, were there some soldiers that you served with that you maybe wouldn't have trusted to have your back in battle? Or do you feel that you
a couple?
Yeah. Did you feel that your unit, there was like a good cohesion?
Huh?
Did you have good friends that you made in your time of service?
You make friends regardless.
Yeah. Good. What do you think the Vietnam War means to you now?
Huh?
What does the Vietnam War mean to you now in 2020? When you think back on it, what were your biggest lessons that you learned from the war?
I don't know, it's just part of my life that I lived, and like, oh well. I don't know.
I didn't roll. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your time that that
And
you
what
want?
now?
Is there any other instances or stories that you'd like to share from Vietnam that I haven't asked about?
Nah.
No. How do you feel about being on camera?
I didn't.
Well, I can leave you off, but
Oh.
I'm just curious, as a wife, what is your, how do you feel his time in Vietnam hasn't impacted you?
Oh boy. Oh, I can talk, I guess. You want me over there?
Yeah, or I can turn you, or wherever you're comfortable. Bring your chair over.
Yeah, pull a chair up.
Yeah, pull it up.
Oh my gosh.
I always like to hear the wives talk.
Oh, okay.
When I would do Korean War interviews with POWs, I always like to talk to the wives because you guys have insight too. So, how do you feel being married to a Vietnam veteran has impacted you?
Well, I'm very proud of him, and I have a greater love, I think, for the United States, and it bothers me when people are stomping on the flag and things, and just how brave he was and all the other soldiers that have come before and after him.
Yeah. How do you feel as a wife of a man that has Agent Orange issues from Vietnam? How has that made you feel?
Angry at first, and we've learned just to roll with the punches, we say, because he's had several bouts of radiation and chemo, and
So you were at home while he is in Vietnam. So what is your thoughts about the anti-war movement? Was that something that you noticed much?
oh yes, because I'd watch the news every night to make sure I didn't see him.
And what were your thoughts on that? Did you agree with the anti-war movement? Were you against the anti-war movement, or were you kind of in the middle?
Kind of in the middle, because he was away from me. I was selfish.
Yeah.
And we had a baby, so, but as time went on, I was glad
Okay.
that
What are
That
your
was tough. Don't worry about me.
I know.
what are your thoughts on just the American involvement in general? Was that something that you felt that you agreed with, the Americans going into Vietnam?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he gets back in 1971, let's fast forward to 1975. Did you guys follow the fall of Saigon?
Mm-hmm.
And what were your thoughts about that?
Sad. Yeah. That had happened, and
Yeah.
they were trying to get the people out, and yeah, it was sad.
Yeah. Was that something that you pretty much watched unfold on TV?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's interesting about Vietnam. It's really the first TV war
Right.
that we were able to watch, unfold. So after Saigon fell, did you feel, both of you, this is for both of you, did you feel that no one really talked about Vietnam for a while? And it was
Yeah.
just kind of went away?
Yeah, they tried to forget, I think.
Why do you think that's so? Like, why, other than trying to forget?
No, it didn't go away.
No, it didn't go away because it was so controversial, I guess. That,
It's hard for people to talk
Uh-huh.
about.
mm-hmm.
When do you feel that people started to talk about it again? When it started to become more public again, to movies and books and things come out.
Might not have been until the 90s.
Maybe, so we did, in 1995 is when we had diplomatic relations start again. So that could be a part too,
Right.
that led to that. Have you ever went back to Vietnam to visit? No.
No, we'd like to.
Yeah, I do read a lot about veterans that go
Yeah,
back. And
yeah.
how do you overall feel that his military service has impacted your life?
I'm stronger and a better person, I think.
Yeah. What do you think, both of you two, you can both answer this, what do you think is the ultimate lesson that the United States should have learned from the Vietnam War as a country?
What now?
What should the United States have learned from Vietnam?
Keep the people out of it.
What do you?
Keep communist.
Yeah.
This isn't a communist country.
Let me see how am I going to phrase this. Do you feel that we did learn lessons from that war, and have we applied it to our country?
We learned, but I'm not sure everybody has applied it.
Yeah. Do you see any parallels between our involvement in Vietnam and our involvement in Middle Eastern wars over the last 20 years?
It's back to the same old.
Yeah, do you see any parallels
Parallels.
between Vietnam and Middle Eastern wars?
To me, it's basically the same thing. You got the, newspaper people and all that in it, and of course, they don't know how to write the truth. So you're looking at a whole different war again.
Yeah, the media does play a major impact in how people view a war. And oftentimes it takes decades to get some of the truth to come out when archives open, because historians had a hard time getting information about Vietnam until the 90s. So that was another reason it was hard to get, things written and information put out. I think that one of the things that has given a little more interest into the Vietnam War lately was John McCain's service. And so I'm from Arizona, so he's my senator, and we love John McCain.
Right.
And I like seeing people that are high profile in the Vietnam War, because I think it helps create the conversation that we need to have, especially as Vietnam veterans are aging, and it's really important to get their stories into the war. So is there anything else either of you would like to share into the camera?
We, one time, I had to go out because they were short on people. And we set up camp and stuff. And this one guy was, he was on the ground laying there. He had poncho lying over him. He was asleep. All of a sudden his stomach started coming up like that. And I said, leave him alone. Well, next morning, the guy was laying there like in shock. Well, that hump went down. Well, you can see it coming off the side. Cobra. The cobra curled up on him because he was warm for the night, and then in the morning he crawls off.
That gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. I'm glad we don't have cobras here.
All right.
I'm also going to just kind of put these, is it okay if I show these into the camera? Just so that I can have them. So there's picture one. I have you right next to it too, so kind of see the before and after. These are great photos. Thank you so much for sharing them.
145 pounds.
I think he probably has pictures of what Agent Orange did too. Do you have those?
I can't get to her right now.
Okay.
We had that there, over there, the air is so thin, but it's dirty. You go to bed at night, okay, you got white sheets. By the third night, that sheet is black. That's taking a shower and then going to bed. What the deal is, you sweat in the middle of the night and you got dirt in your pores and it comes out. So the third night, the sheet is black. And then the next day they change it.
I bet you were happy to get home to clean sheets. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else either of you would like to add?
I don't think so.
No?
No. Thank you.
You're welcome.